All right, let's dive into an incredible story from pre-Islamic Arabia. It's a story all about leadership, a really desperate promise made to God, and a choice that would literally echo through history. So at the very heart of this whole thing is this dramatic question. I mean, it sounds like something straight out of a myth, doesn't it? But this is a real pivotal event that leads directly to the birth of the Prophet Muhammad. So how on earth did a man's life come to be valued at 100 camels? Let's find out. Okay, to really get why this story is such a big deal, we first need to meet the man who made that vow, the Prophet's grandfather. But his own story, well, it actually starts a generation before him. It all kicks off with a man named Hashim, a super prominent figure. On his travels, he marries a noblewoman named Salma. But tragically, Hashim passes away during that same journey, and it's after his death that his son, Sheba, is born. The boy is then brought to Mecca to be raised by his uncle, Muttalib. And this, right here, is where a really important name comes into play. Because the young boy, Sheba, was always seen with his uncle, people in Mecca started calling him Abdul Muttalib, which literally means the servant of Muttalib. It was just a nickname, but it stuck, and that's the name history would forever remember him by. Now, Abdul Muttalib grew up to be anything but a servant. He became one of the most important leaders of the Quraysh tribe, really embodying the ideals of his society. The sources we have describe him as being exceptionally handsome, with his commanding personality. He was a man of immense honor and authority, the kind of figure everyone in Mecca really looked up to. But, despite his high status, there was something missing in Abdul Muttalib's life, a deep desire that would push him to make an almost unthinkable promise. See, for a long time, this powerful leader had only one son, a boy named Harith. And in a society where having a lot of sons meant strength and prestige, Abdul Muttalib desperately wanted more. He wanted a family that could truly stand with him. So, in a moment of really desperate prayer, he made this solemn vow, a promise that in his culture was absolutely unbreakable. He said if God blessed him with 10 sons who all grew up to be men, he would sacrifice one of them at the Holy Kaaba, a show of ultimate gratitude. I mean, talk about a high-stakes promise. And you know what? In time, his wish was granted. He became the father of 10 sons. Some accounts even say 12. They all grew into strong young men who stood by his side. And now the time had come for Abdul Muttalib to fulfill his part of the bargain. This is where the story pivots from a father's wish to a leader's terrible burden. A promise had been made, but the price? Well, the price was about to become devastatingly personal. True to his word, Abdul Muttalib gathered all 10 of his sons and brought them before the Kaaba. He explained his vow and told them that he had to figure out which one of them would be the sacrifice. The way they do this was by casting lots using divining arrows, a traditional way to make a big, impartial decision like this. Can you just imagine the tension of that moment as the arrows were drawn? And then the result. The lot fell on Abdullah, not only his youngest son, but the one who was most cherished, not just by his father, but by the entire family. For Abdul Muttalib, this was the worst possible outcome. So now he's facing this impossible conflict. On one hand, he has a sacred oath to God that a man of his honor just could not break. And on the other, his deep, profound love for his favorite son. Torn, he took Abdullah by the hand and started walking towards the place of sacrifice. But when his other sons and daughters saw this, they were completely distraught. They couldn't bear the thought of losing Abdullah. They rushed to Abdul Muttalib, grabbing his robes, begging him to find another way, any other way, to solve this impossible problem. His family pleaded with him. They said, "Go consult the wise soothsayer from the city of Yathrib. Maybe she can offer a way out, a way to satisfy the vow without this unthinkable sacrifice." And, desperate for any solution, Abdul Muttalib agreed to seek her counsel. So, here's the plan she came up with. It was basically a high-stakes ceremony of chance. They would cast lots between Abdullah and 10 camels, which was the standard blood money at the time. If the lot fell on Abdullah, they had to add another 10 camels and cast again. And they had to keep doing this until the lot finally fell on the animals. So they all returned to Mecca and began. The first lot was cast between Abdullah and 10 camels. The tension must have been absolutely unbearable. The divining arrow was drawn, and it landed on Abdullah. His life was still forfeit. So they added 10 more camels, making it 20. They cast lots again, Abdullah. They added another 10, making it 30. Again, Abdullah. This happened 9 excruciating times in a row. With every single draw, the number of camels grew into a small fortune, but fate just refused to release its claim on the boy. Finally, on the 10th attempt, with the ransom now at a massive 100 camels, they cast the lots one more time. And this time, the lot finally fell on the camels. A huge wave of joyous relief must have just washed over everyone there. And just like that, the vow was fulfilled. A sacrifice was made, not of a beloved son, but of a huge fortune in livestock. Abdullah's life was spared, ransomed for a price that would become legendary. It even set a whole new precedent for blood money in the region. So this dramatic story of a near sacrifice is way more than just a family legend. What we're seeing here, the weight of a vow, the value of a son, the role of the community, it all sets the stage for one of the most significant events in world history. Because he was spared from sacrifice, Abdullah went on to marry a noble woman named Aminah. And from their union, a son was born, Muhammad. The very man who was ransomed for 100 camels became the father of the prophet. So, the story of the ransom explains how the prophet's father survived to have a son. But there was another monumental event that took place just before his birth, an invasion of Mecca that involved an army of elephants. And that leaves us with a question. What exactly was the Year of the Elephant, and how does it connect to this story?